Welcome back. I'm John Savarino, and this is Talking Money. We are going to be continuing our annuities segment with part 3. What is an indexed annuity? Now, when it comes to indexed annuities, there's a lot to unpack here. So we are going to keep it fairly simple, explaining what is an indexed annuity from a very high level, and ultimately how we, rooted wealth advisors, sometimes implement them as a part of our clients' plans when it makes sense. Once again, that's what we're going to be discussing. As just a quick disclosure, there's a lot of other ways that indexed annuities work, can benefit someone. I'm simply speaking to what we most often utilize them for when it comes to our clients' portfolios and their retirement plan. So when I think of indexed annuities, the way that I describe them is they offer downside protection first and foremost. So what that means is if the stock market goes down, whether it's a few percent, maybe it's more than 10 or heck, even 20%, they're offering us downside protection. And when I say they, the insurance company, because they all are also going to be issued by an insurance company, and they're going to be giving us downside protection no matter what the stock market does. Now the question becomes, how do I make money? So unlike a fixed annuity that just simply offers us a fixed rate of return guaranteed each and every year, the trade-off with an indexed annuity is ultimately they're going to allow us to either participate in market gains, or maybe they're going to cap us on those gains. I'll give you two different examples. So sometimes they're going to offer us a cap rate, okay? So I still have that downside protection if the market goes down, but I'm capped on whatever the market goes up. So typically right now we're seeing a 10 or 11% cap on the S&P 500 itself. So in that example, in my first year, right, it's typically going to be a 12-month crediting period. So it resets every 12 months through the life of the contract. If the stock market goes up, say 15% in that particular year, and I have a 10% cap, well, I'm going to get 10% on my hard-earned money, but I'm not going to get the additional 5 because I'm capped out at 10%. Same concept would apply if the market goes up 5%. I'm going to get the full 5% because it was under my 10% cap. Now, the other most common way is going to be what we call a participation rate. Now, many of our clients have probably heard myself or other advisors call it a par rate for short. But whenever you hear par rate, we're talking participation. So now this creates an unlimited cap for potential, but we're only participating in so much of those gains. So right now we're seeing about a 50% participation rate, once again, on the S&P 500. So in that example of 10%, I would get 5%, right? Because I'm getting 50% of whatever the S&P 500 did. But on the flip side, if the S&P goes up 30%, I'm crediting 15%. As an example. So once again, downside protection. I cannot lose any money, and I'm either able to participate in market growth on the upside, or I'm capped out on a portion of the return in the stock market for that particular year. Now, just like a fixed annuity, hey, do I have a penalty-free amount or like a free withdrawal available? Because most commonly, we're most commonly using indexed annuities in our clients' portfolios or their retirement plans for two specific reasons. Number one, as a bond or fixed income alternative. Because if you didn't know, the bond market historically has averaged 2-3% year over year, underperforming inflation, quite frankly. So we like to use it as a bond alternative if it makes sense for our client. The other reason we use them is a safe place to pull an annual income amount in a down market. Let me clarify that a little bit. If I'm pulling $50,000 per year from my retirement portfolio to achieve whatever my need is in retirement, well, man, I better make sure I have that $50,000 accessible in a down market to prevent sequence of return risk, which we've done a video on in the past. And an indexed annuity is a great way to achieve that. We just need to make sure that we have enough there to pull in a down year to buy ourselves time on our more at-risk or managed investments. Once again, this is a great way to prevent sequence of return risk. Those are going to be the two most common areas or common reasons that we implement an indexed annuity for our clients and their retirement plan or their portfolio. But a few other things that I would be asking myself if I either have an indexed annuity or I'm potentially seeking an indexed annuity, always go back to fees, right? What am I paying any fee? 99% of the indexed annuities that we've wrote in our office have absolutely no fee. The reason being is a lot of the fee that we pay is on the cap or the participation rate. So we shouldn't have to be paying any further fees within the contract, because something as simple as a 1% fee on my annuity, then we start to question how protected is it. As an example, market goes down, quote unquote, you're not losing anything, but you are to that 1% fee. So you always want to keep that in mind. The other question becomes, is my indexed annuity built for what we call protected growth, or is it built for income? Oftentimes I'll have potential clients come into our office or come into my office and they say, man, I got this indexed annuity and it's the best thing ever. And oftentimes we think we're getting this massive bonus up front on our actual contract value, when in reality that bonus is going on to our what we call a protected income value, and maybe we'll unpack that a little bit further. My point with sharing that is if anyone's ever trying to tell you that this annuity product is great for not only protected growth but also guaranteed income in retirement, I would tread lightly when it comes to that, because there's always a trade-off, right? Oftentimes you can't always have your cake and also eat it too. And in that example, I'm a true believer in it. Annuities are rarely structured for both protected growth and guaranteed income in retirement. You're either going to get one or the other. And if it's ever touted as both, I'd raise a question at that. So once again, there's so much to unpack with indexed annuities, as you just saw, but I hope that at least peels a few layers back, sheds a little bit more light on how an indexed annuity could potentially help you, but also how it could potentially hurt you. So any further questions on that, leave those comments below. I'm happy to speak a lot further to indexed annuities than I did in that video. But also hit that like button. What are some questions? What are some feedback that you can bring to the table? Subscribe, notification button. As always, we'll talk money soon.